Hi everyone, welcome to Fabi's show number 9.
Yay, number 9. I think number 9 is my favorite number.
I am very excited to be here today as Fabi is on vacation. So I'm going to ask you a big favor. Please, please, please share this on your page and ask your friends to share so that we have viewers and they get a whole bunch of great information. Also, please make comments or ask any questions as Good Day Chula Vista is sponsoring for a raffle a gift card.
Ooh, nice.
So if you'd like to participate, please make comments and ask questions.
Am I eligible to win this gift card?
No, you're not. Okay, sorry, Tony. So today we have as our guest Mr. Tony Santiago. So Tony, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, first and foremost, it's an honor to be on this show. I was really happy and excited when she asked me if I wanted to be a guest, and I thought, yes. I'm such a big ham anyways. I love being behind the camera, or in front of the camera, that is. But no, my name is Tony Santiago, and I'm in title insurance business, and I've been doing it for now going on my 28th year in title insurance.
Quite some time?
Yeah, quite some time. I know I may look like I'm only 28 years old, but
you must have started when you were 5.
I was 5 years old when I started. But no, I mean, I'm real proud of my career in it, and I started right out of high school, and I've never looked back since. So I really enjoy this business and this industry.
That's great. Well, Tony, tell us a little bit about what you mean. What is title insurance? We hear that a lot, especially if we're buying a house.
Correct.
We hear about title insurance and the importance of having title insurance.
Yeah.
Can you give us a general idea of what that means?
Absolutely. And you know, title insurance is kind of one of these insurances that are kind of behind the scenes and no one really knows what they are.
Exactly.
And the general public typically doesn't know what title insurance is until they are purchasing a home. I want to give a little bit of difference between title insurance and any other homeowner's insurance, such as a State Farm or Farmers or an Allstate, where they're insuring property and the belongings and personal property. Title insurance, we don't ultimately care about the house. We the actual property. We insure the property it sits on, the land it sits on.
So not the structure.
Not the structure.
Okay.
We insure ultimately the land and the history of that land. And what title insurance is ultimately is we're insuring opposite of what like an Allstate does for future occurrences, which we do have some stuff that's future occurrences, but we insure properties of the day you purchase backwards to when the home was originally built on that piece of land. So we do title searches, county records, from the day you purchase it back to when, like I said, originally it was built, and we look for any defects or losses of due to loss or defects due to losses of that particular home, and search property records, county records, and then general index searches for the property owners themselves.
So Tony, you're saying that you don't actually have anything to do with the homeowner's insurance, structure, furniture, etc.
Yeah.
It's the land. So does that include boundaries historically?
Yeah, in California real estate, United States real estate, really, every home has a legal description to it.
Okay.
So such as a lot number and a block number and a map number of that particular subdivision or a piece of lot of whenever it was originally created, there was a legal description, not an address, it's a legal description. So that's what ultimately we're insuring. We're insuring what happened when the day you purchased it back to when it was originally acquired and built and made up of. So that's the difference between title insurance and...
So now I can see the importance of having it, knowing exactly which part of the land is actually really yours, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, what about holding title? You hear about, I'm going to be holding title to this property.
Yes.
expand a little bit on the holding title, the verbiage, or the
Vesting.
language.
The vesting,
Okay. Vesting.
you know, holding title. And you know, when Fabi had asked me to come talk about this, and this is, you know, these are one of these times where, you know, we can provide some great information on vesting, on how to hold title, and I'll go over the few ways you can hold title on real property in California. But this is a subject to where, if you are purchasing a property, you want to consult a professional, such as maybe an attorney or a tax attorney or a tax accountant, to look at the benefits of how to hold title, because these are very important matters when you're buying a house.
So it makes a difference.
It makes a difference on how you
Okay.
want to hold title. And
Okay.
the most common ways of holding title for real property in the state of California. Let me explain a little bit about state of California of being a community property state.
Okay.
We'll start with that. We live in a state where it's community property, and what does that mean? So community property is anybody that's purchasing property. If you are married, you automatically have spousal interest because of marriage, because of the community property state.
Even
So-
if I bought the property by myself.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what community property
Community
means.
property. We are, like I said, we're in a community
Okay.
property state. So let me go over a little bit about the terms of the ways of how you can hold title and what are the terms are. There's joint tenancy. There's tenants in common. There's community property and community property with right of survivorship. Community property and community property with right of survivorship, ultimately identical, except that community property is typically with the husband and wife or a domestic partner. Community property with right of survivorship doesn't have to be a husband and wife.
Okay.
Okay, and so that's the only difference between community property and community property with right of survivorship. Joint tenancy can be anybody. So, and then tenants in common, it's anybody with owning property in a particular percentage. Like, say you and I decided to buy a piece of property and we're going to hold it 60%, 40%. And I would hold 60%, you would hold 40%, but we would have to hold it.
No way,
as-
I want 60.
I'll give you
get
60, but I get it 40.
Okay.
We would have to hold it.
That's
tenants in
better.
common.
Okay, perfect.
And that's the difference with tenants in common. It's explaining the percentage of ownership. And so if
Okay.
you're going to hold title in tenants in common, it's typically you're explaining that I'm holding a percentage of value of that home.
Okay.
So that's where the tenants in common comes in.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you related to joint tenancy and tenants in common, which are probably the most common. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think, you know, for you know, and not necessarily married couples, but you know, if it's more than one person buying a home, joint tenancy seems to be the most common. You know,
And joint tenancy, tell me, just like you explained with tenants in common, is it also you choose the percentages?
no,
How does that work?
joint tenancy is assume 50%, 50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is your 50%? Are you going to be able to inherit it to somebody, or are you going to give it to me if we're joint tenants?
Yeah, if we're joint tenants, say you and I have a home piece of property and we're joint tenants, and say something happens to me, I pass away or something, you know, you assume my interest.
So I
Because you are my-
own 100%.
Yes.
That's pretty dangerous.
It's how you decide, and that's why you have to consult an attorney and a tax accountant.
Yes,
if you're buying
absolutely.
purchasing a property, what is the best for my situation?
Right.
It's going to be different for every single buyer out there. But I'm just talking common for anybody. You know, commonly a husband and wife, may it be, or a couple buddies buying a property, and how they're going to do it, how they buying the property, and what's the best way to hold
50-50
title.
and
50-50
survivorship.
And survivorship.
Okay. And in tenants in common, okay, so 60-40. What happens if I die?
So you're 40%.
60.
Sorry, you're 60%. Yeah. I want 60. No. So you're 40%. I have no interest in that.
Okay.
Right? So however it's set up, say you have a will, and depending on how you take it as well too, because say you're 40%, like I said, we are in a community
Okay.
property state. So say it's you and your husband owning that 40%. So within that 40%, how do you own it? Do you own it as joint tenants? Right? So your 40%
Got
would be
it.
then passed on to him, or whoever you have, either on a will or however whatever your circumstances may be on how you set that up for if that ever happens.
Got it. So for instance, let me just, I want to make sure that we all understand correctly. If, let's say that John and Mary are getting married, and second marriage, Mary has 3 kids.
Okay.
And they decide to take title as tenants in common. And they're 50-50, just like joint tenancy. But Mary will have the option of creating her will and leaving that 50% to her kids?
Exactly.
Okay.
Then you would, if she has a different, I don't want to say agenda, but lack of a better word, agenda for that 50% of ownership that she has with her new husband. But if something happens, maybe she wants her kids or whatever, however they set that up, that's where tenancy in common will come in.
Right. So this is really great information for you all. I mean, it's typically we think that all properties are bought the same way, that everybody holds title the same way. So this is really great information to know what's best for each individual, correct?
And it is, I mean, it's different for everybody. That's why, with with these ways of holding title is kind of unknown. You really, as a home buyer, you really want to ask the right people, and if you're working with the agent, they can direct you to maybe an attorney that you don't have, or a tax attorney that can direct you into what is the best way for my situation to purchase a home. And
that's very important, because we want to make sure for our viewers that they are aware that neither you or I are attorneys. No, we are not offering any legal advice. What we're offering, well, actually what Tony is offering, is great information so that you have the knowledge to make decisions.
This is all generalized, that you can look up on the internet and, on common ways to hold title, which I do, if you're interested, I can provide you with all the different flyers of all the different ways to hold title, and for how they what's the reason why they should or not. I mean, it's just generalized information. They can easily I can easily provide that for them as well. But
it's great information to have. So let's say that I decide that I am going to buy a piece of property with my sister. Okay, but I'm buying it and I'm just giving my sister a little piece. It could be 10%. I can hold 9%. It could be 1%. Okay. It could be 2%. It could be 2.5%. Okay, but let's say even if it's 1%, does that mean that if I decide that I want to sell the property now, does that mean that she has to agree? She has to agree, because she holds 1% interest in that property. Okay, so that's... Unless you are just selling your 99% interest, or your 90% interest, or your 40% interest. Which, is that doable too? So I can sell my 90%, and then they will owe 90% with 10% with my sister. Okay, that's great information. Now, can you change the way you are holding title? Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about that. Okay, I mean, if you are currently holding title in, tenants in common or community property or whatever, any of the ways you're holding title, and you decide, well, my situation has changed, always consult an attorney and a tax accountant to figure out what's the benefit. Is it a benefit or not for me to change? Yes. Yeah, and it's simple as recording a deed. It would be a quitclaim deed. Just changing your status of how you're holding title. It would have to be notarized and recorded at the county recorder's office. Is that something that a title company will do, or do we go to court? We can point you in the right direction. Okay. It's nothing of, we're not providing new title insurance to this, but as a courtesy to anybody that wants to know about it, or what documents are allowed to be recorded at the county recorder's office, we can definitely help them out. But anybody can go to the recorder's office and do that. And so you have control over how you're holding title. Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Now, and I know that this is just a general information session. Is it expensive to be able to change title? No, I think if it's a matter of just
getting a document recording. If you know, I think forms are available, say a blank quitclaim deed, and you figure out how you want to hold title. You put that in there, you get it notarized. I think a notary will charge $5 a signature, maybe, or maybe $10 now a signature. I'm not
we
sure
have some
what
that charge a couple hundred, but you know, it all depends
well, I
on
think
the
it's just
document it
a
is.
notary, and then the recording fee. If it's, you know, the county recorders in San Diego County, they charge $15 for the first page. Any additional page would be $3 after that. So if it's the main page and maybe another second page, so it might be $15 or $18.
So it's very doable.
Absolutely.
If they would choose to do so.
If they would choose to do so.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Is it public record? Can people see who owns properties?
Absolutely. Yes, it's in the county recorder's public records. So anybody can go in there and do their property searches there at the county recorder's office. It is public record.
Okay, wonderful. So Tony, I just want to go back a little bit to the first comment of the fact that you insure the land, okay, and boundaries. You and I know that there's been times where there is some discrepancy amongst neighbors in boundary lines. What happens in that case? How is it discovered who's right?
Well, you know, once it's established that, okay, the buyer, the seller, they want to, you know, have an inspection company out there to run the property lines, that's when we're going to ultimately find out if there's any type of encroachment from a fence, you know, from one neighbor to the other. And we provide the mapping for it. You know, there's maps for every single piece of property in the county of San Diego.
Wow.
And so if nothing has been changed with that map, the inspection company or surveyor will do his inspection and find out if there are any encroachments on there. And if this is still in a process of still in escrow, it can, you know, if it's okay, there's 2 feet of encroachment or 1 foot or whatever, I mean, then it'd have to be discussed between the neighbors. Hey, you're a foot in. How do we resolve this? So there's a lot of different ways it can go, but typically we weren't going to know that unless it's an escrow. Right. Because with title insurance, you know, we don't search the property till it's already, you know, when a buyer and a seller agree to a price, they open escrow. Escrow will then in turn open a preliminary title report with the title company insuring the property.
Until then you discover
then we do
those
it,
things.
yeah, and if we have any indication that there might be encroachment, then, you know, there'll be a seller, hey, we're going to send an inspection guy out there.
And you mentioned that those have to be notarized, they have to be recorded if they made an agreement, correct?
If they knew about it, the neighbors, and they were like, well, yes. I mean, it all depends on how they agreed upon it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we do search county records, but we do a little bit more than that. You know, we check with the sellers and buyer, you know, or the neighbor if there was some kind of encroachment, or was there a verbal agreement? What was that? So we kind of have to work with the agent, the escrow, and the buyers and sellers to figure out, okay, what are we trying to do here so we can close this transaction legally and cleanly. So
right. So if I'm buying a property, is there a way that I can visually, by standing in front of a property, kind of guess if the fence is in the right place? Or
good question. You know, I think in the county of San Diego, we have a lot of new homes. We have a lot of newer homes that's been built the last 30, 40 years, and these big subdivisions you hear, you know, different. So those pretty cookie cutter homes. Okay. You know, the developer was good enough to build that, you know, fence right on the line, and everybody has their stuff. But you get a little bit older properties, or you know, rural, not necessarily that rural, but you know, older homes, to where years have gone by, 50, 60, 70, 80 years have gone by, and you know, people have changed, you know, multiple owners, and they might have changed the fence here and there. But you really can't, unless it's the newer developments where there's pins on the sidewalk where you can physically see, but for the most part you really can't. You know, and if you know, if you're a homeowner out there that wants to know, I mean, there's surveyors out there that's what they do. They can come out to your property and, you know, map your property lines.
So you know exactly what it is that you own.
Exactly, yeah.
And one question, because I know that this word is used a lot, and especially when we provide preliminary title reports to prospective buyers. Okay, there's an easement in my property. What does that mean, Tony?
Okay, well, easement is, you know, in a sense, a right to use whatever purpose on your property, and it's usually a document that's recorded.
So you're relinquishing a portion of your property.
Correct.
For whatever it is.
Most common easements out there, and everybody pretty much has them. If you have water, power, and you know, coming in and get SDG&E, and you know, and they have to have a document recording say, this is where it's located on your piece of property, and here's a document saying that, hey, there's an easement here on your property for water, for gas, for Cox cable, for whatever it may be. That's typically what that is, and it could be used as for the right-of-way for use of, you know, a driveway may be. Like
those homes that have a long drive where there's a house in front, there might be a driveway
for the right to
back.
use it. However, you know, for coming in and out. You know, access points. So in common terms, it's the right to use.
This is really great information. I mean, I know. Do we have any questions or comments that we would like to go through?
Yes, we have one from Claudia Diaz. Is there a difference in the amount of property taxes paid depending on how you hold title?
Is there a difference on? No, there is not. So the question was if there's any difference in property on how you hold title, property taxes.
Property taxes, or do you pay higher taxes or lower taxes depending on how you hold title?
Property taxes are based on sales price and assessed value.
Perfect. Okay.
So no, the answer is no.
And then there was if property is in a trust, can anyone see who's in the trust, or is it private?
Well, good question. Typically, a trust.
What is a trust?
Oh, family trust. A trust is a document that is formed by a family that wants